Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 6 p.m. and we're going to begin the June Planning Commission meeting. I'd like to welcome everyone in attendance. We do have a quorum present with one member absent. So moving along, we do have a few public hearing items. Before we get to those though, we do have a housekeeping business as far as approval of minutes from last month. Planning Commission members, you've all had an opportunity to review those minutes. If there's any errors or corrections that need to be made, please state so. If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'm going to motion that we approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you. First item is a public hearing. It is 544 Lindsay Way. It's a variance to park a boat in the side yard. Before we open up the public hearing, I'll ask Barbara to provide the staff report, please.
Good evening, Chairman of the Commission. I'm going to just read a few items, or just kind of let everybody know. We did hear this last month, but due to a little advertising error, we needed to bring this back so that we have the sign in the front yard, or in their yard. So the applicant at 544 Lindsay Way, this is a parcel ID NS07B 008, and the property consists of 0.44 acres. Just a little background. The applicant said I think they bought this house in 2017, somewhere around there. And the homeowner has been parking the boat, the application says side yard, along the retaining wall where the trees and shrubs and foliage to help shield it from the public view. The homeowner has parked this boat on the left side of the home in the front yard for the past 2.5 years. We have an application from the homeowner, and our city ordinance states no boats, vehicles, or recreational equipment like campers be permitted to park more than 24 hours in a residential district. Conditions of the ordinance mandate that a boat be parked in the side or rear yard behind the building or under a carport, or that the boat be parked in a spot where it is completely out of the public view. An exception to this ordinance includes if the size, shape, or topography of the property permits to the ordinance the homeowner of the same rights as their neighbors. The property narrows in the back, resulting in a steep drop down to the creek that spans through the backyard. There's also a rear deck attached to the home. These physical characteristics do not allow the homeowner the necessary space to maneuver a boat trailer to the rear of the home. Excuse me. In addition, the homeowner maintains it would be difficult to install a carport due to the steep slope of the property on each side of the home. Excuse me. Staff has looked at the pictures, and I'm going to just go through some of these slides. This one here, this is the house, the driveway, and if you look, the pontoon boat is parked in the front yard, because the eave of the house right here, that is the plane of the front, and then here's the pontoon here. So I've got a couple of other pictures to show you. This is a picture from the street where you can see that the pontoon boat is in the front yard. Now, they have been parking a truck in front of the pontoon boat, but at this date and time, there was no truck in front of the pontoon boat. Here's the house, and this is the pontoon boat right in here, and this is the retaining wall and the foliage. So this is at the front of the house. And then got another one. This one's kind of dark, but this is where when they park the boat, they park the truck in front of the boat. But this is the house. It is in the front yard, not the side yard. They do have a deck off the back of their house. They have a little john boat in the back, which this is where it starts sloping down. Right here, it pretty much drops off at the back of their house. This is kind of the corner of the back of the house. The applicant did provide these pictures to the city. But the homeowner wants to park the boat on the left side of their home, and the property slopes downward in the back, preventing the boat from being placed behind the home. The boat appears to be parked in the front yard, not the side yard. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the variance request.
Any questions of Barbara at this time? Barbara, I will ask for clarification. This was brought to the attention of the homeowner because of code enforcement. Is that correct?
That's correct. Code enforcement went to Winsong subdivision on another item that was called on. So when code enforcement goes out, normally if they are looking at this house for a violation, they kind of turn around, look to see if anything is right in that area that's in a violation, which the boat in the front yard is in a violation.
How many, do you know off the top of your head, how many other notice of violations code enforcement issued throughout that subdivision at the time they issued the one in question tonight?
If I remember correctly, he was saying there was like 7 or 8 that week at that time that they issued violations for. The ones that they, most of them have moved or stored them somewhere else, you know.
Have complied to the...
They complied, so we haven't taken anybody to court because they are not complying, and no one has asked for variance other than
Ms. Bishop.
Bishop.
Are there any other questions of Barbara at this time? If not, Ms. Bishop, you'd like to come up and we'll start the public hearing process. Ms. Bishop, before we begin, just want to let you know that you do have a total of 10 minutes. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor of your request will also be given a total of 10 minutes, not 10 minutes each. Then we'll open up to anyone who'd like to speak in opposition. Again, likewise, the opposition will have a total of 10 minutes, not individual 10 minutes. You may reserve some of your 10 minutes from your presentation for rebuttal should you see the need to do so. At that time, you'll be awarded the rest of your 10 minutes and give your rebuttal. But if you'd like to begin, go ahead.
This was all discussed at the last meeting, and at the last meeting, the board sent over an approval with one person in opposition of this. I mean, there is clearly no way to be able to park that behind my home or either on the side with it being in, without tearing up my neighbor's yard. The slope on the sides of that yard, to put it back any further, is at a very deep slope, which is what we discussed at the last time. I mean, there's no way to put it in the back. As far as storage, we've been on a waiting list to put it on a storage unit you did recommend. However, there's rats, I mean, everywhere. Would you want to stick a $30,000 boat and have rats and raccoons and all of that? Plus, I mean, there's no way to tell if somebody's going to vandalize a storage unit, which they have been being broke into lately. I mean, if it could go back in there, I would. And the variances, I mean, based on the layout of the land, it matches every bit of it. The other code violations that were in the neighborhood were all campers. There is nobody else in the neighborhood that was given a notice for a boat. It is not even in our HOA. This is only a city ordinance, and in 2.5 years, I have never been given one. So, I mean, it's never been an issue until now.
Any questions, Ms. Bishop?
I mean, I think a lot of them we covered at the last meeting.
Okay. Ms. Bishop, you have 8 minutes remaining. You can reserve that time for rebuttal if you have the need to do so.
That's fine.
If you have a seat, anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this request for variance, please come to the podium, state your name for the record. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition of the variance? Please come to the podium and state your record. Seeing none, Ms. Bishop, would you like to use the rest of your 8 minutes?
I mean, but again, we covered all of this, and I mean, I answered all y'all's questions at the last meeting when you approved it.
All right. Well, at this time, we'll close the public hearing. Planning Commission members, you have thoughts, questions, concerns?
So the only thing that I would say is I've gone back and gone over some of the variance requirements. And I don't think that enforcing the code would cause unnecessary hardship. And I don't think that not granting the variance would cause unnecessary hardship. That's the only thing I see different here.
Anybody else? Any questions, comments? Seeing none, Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion we deny.
Have a motion on the table to deny the variance request. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to deny the variance request. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Motion to deny is unanimous. Okay. Moving to, and for those of you here tonight, the actions we take are just recommendations. The city council makes the final decision. So we are not the end-all be-all. City council will consider these at their next meeting. The next item we have is a rezoning from AG to I-1 on a piece of property on Hightower Trail. Barbara, would you take us through this application, please?
This property is located on East Hightower Trail. The property now is zoned AG. The applicant is asking to rezone it to a I-1, a light industrial. The applicant's requesting the rezone parcel ID SC230013. This property consists of 57.69 acres and it's zoned agricultural at the time. The applicant wants to build office warehouse buildings and the property adjacent to the subject property are already zoned I-1. The applicant, Jim, I have a hard time saying his last name, I apologize for that, Eric, plans to build office warehouse buildings on the property of Adair Realty, Inc., is the project manager for the development. He represents the property owner, Terry Darby of Mansfield, Georgia. The parcel is in an area designed for industrial development and on the 2026 future land use plan. Properties adjacent to the parcel on either side are already zoned I-1. This property is actually next door to General Mills. This is the layout of the property that he's proposing. The district limits industrial manufacturing and warehouse uses to those which are wholly conducted indoors with the exception of outdoor storage, which is screened and situated in a required side or rear yard. Per the ordinance, the developer must install landscaping that uses vegetation to screen from the view, loading, and storage areas to reduce the view of the development from the road. Staff recommends the Planning Commission consider approving the rezone request. Rezoning the development as I-1 will further the city's desire to provide citizens with a strong tax base and employment opportunities. And like I said, this is over 57 acres, and this is on East Hightower. There would be a building here, and the second one, and the third one. I've got a couple more pictures. Let's look and see. No, I don't. This is the only one we have right at the moment, is this layout. Now the applicant is here, and they have a couple of boards that they would like to present to you. You have some hard copy maps of the layout, and that's the one we have on the screen.
Barbara, I have a question for you. This, the properties just to the west of this, there's two properties already zoned industrial as well.
That's correct.
And maybe this is a question for the applicant during the public hearing portion, but does the applicant also have rights to those two properties as well?
Not at this time. I don't.
Okay. So that residence, that house that's there, and the barn that sits off the road, that's still, that's not part of this plan, it's not?
Not part of this property,
Okay.
no. Like I said, it is zoned I-1. Mr. Darby, that owns this 57 acres, did not want his property zoned I-1 back in 2000 when we did it, so he requested it go back to AG, which we did. And then the property to the east, those two properties are zoned
Yep.
I-1.
Okay. Any other questions for Barbara at this time? Not? Mr. Air, same rules apply for public hearing that I read earlier, apply to this one and the one later, so your 10 minutes begins, sir.
I'm not sure I have much more to say after Barbara's presentation, but I'll add some things to it. Jim Iyer, Ackerman and Company, 10 Glen Lake Parkway, Atlanta, Georgia. Representing Adair Realty, which is a division of Ackerman and Company. Ackerman has been around for over 50 years, developing commercial and industrial real estate in the Atlanta market. I am currently focused more on the industrial side. We've done everything from a 1 million square foot office warehouse building in Brazelton that we leased to Uline to several buildings in Brazelton 3 at 150,000 square feet. We also are currently developing a project we call Rockdale Technology Center, which you may have seen. It's on fronts on I-20, just east of Sigmund Road interchange. Komatsu is the one sign that you see on the building, but the 5 buildings that are in that complex are buildings we've developed. We bought the property in 2018 and have developed it in phases over the years. Buildings in there range from 150,000 square feet to 375,000 square foot build-to-suit we did for Tempest Sealy. They're using it for a warehouse for mattresses, so 30 feet of mattresses stacked floor to ceiling. But anyway, so we have a history of doing Class A office warehouse in the Atlanta area. We've also done work in Dallas, in the Texas market, and also in Florida. So long history of building, and we think we understand that market. We have the East Hightower tract under contract. We would like to rezone it to the light industrial designation. As you can see on our plan, we're showing 3 buildings totaling about 450,000 square feet. The front building would be a smaller, probably user building that fronts on East Hightower. And then because of the configuration of the property, we're able to tuck the larger buildings in behind it. So between the topography and the lay of the land, you really won't see those. They'll be more or less screened from the front. And of course, as we further develop our plans, we'll comply completely and then some with the landscape ordinance that we've talked to Barbara about earlier today. So if we do, the buildings that we do will be Class A. And again, the example that I would use, that if you want to go touch and feel, would be the Rockdale Technology buildings on Dogwood Drive there in Conyers. As Barbara said, the property, you can see by the map, we're immediately adjacent to General Mills. We're part of the industrial district. I see your future land use plan on the wall. It's got this area designated as industrial, so we're just continuing something that was started a number of years ago. Mr. Darby, who's here tonight, if you have questions for him, asked that it be removed because he was continuing to use it for pasture and livestock, and so he wanted to keep it as a conservation area for the time being, but he's ready to sell the property. We're ready to develop it if you are so kind to rezone it tonight. So with that, I'm going to save the rest of my time for any questions you may have or any rebuttal from anybody, but we would like you to consider approving the rezoning of the property, making a recommendation to Mayor and Council based on Barbara's recommendation to rezone it from the agricultural to the light industrial zoning that we're showing on the map. So, does anybody have any questions, or you want to go to the?
I do have a question.
Okay.
Did you perform a traffic impact study?
We have one in the works, but unfortunately you can't do those until school is in. So we couldn't do our traffic counts until.
Couldn't get an accurate traffic count.
Correct. Yeah, the GDOT standard is you have to wait until schools are in. So we have one scheduled, I believe this week or next, to do the traffic counts and formalize. We'll give that to Barbara when it's available. But we have one in the works, but schedule doesn't allow us to do the counts per GDOT standards.
Okay. And the reason I ask is that kind of gives us an idea, a better idea. I know you don't have named tenants, or you probably tenants you can't name at this time. But we do know that it's 457,000 square foot of distribution. That comes with a lot of traffic. East Hightower is a changing corridor from a small rural 2-lane road, 60-foot right-of-way, and it's quickly going to become a transportation corridor from the bypass to Highway 278. And I'm going along this path to ask you, I see that on your site plan, you're proposing to set your building back, your front building back, a substantial distance from the road. You do have an electric easement, looks like, that cuts across the middle of it, that prohibits you from developing in that easement. But has a thought crossed your mind in order to make this rezoning request more appealable, to donate an additional 40-foot of property along your property line, or along the frontage of your property to the city for right-of-way? And I say that because we're going to be faced with having to do road improvements.
Understand?
We can't do road improvements going north of East Hightower due to the constraint of the railroad. So we have to get it from somewhere. It's better for us to get it in a friendly way now versus having to come and pay for it and cost the taxpayers money later.
I understand what you're saying, and interestingly, as I was looking at our survey, our front property line is actually the edge of the right-of-way, so East Hightower is wholly in the railroad right-of-way out there. So we do. I live in Norcross. We deal with that on a regular basis. To answer your question, we're not opposed to it. We want to see what the justification is, and we want to, if there are in fact going to be road improvements along East Hightower, done either by the city, county, or state, and certainly that benefits us. We're willing to participate in that, and are willing to consider that. Let's see what the requirements are, and as you very well pointed out, we've got a power easement across the front, so there's a certain amount of that property that's not usable. That also may have some constraints on the road expansion because of where the poles are. So
utilities will have to be relocated.
yeah, so you guys can say do that. I can't. But anyway, to answer your question, yes, we're open to providing right of way. The extent of it, let's figure out what's needed, and then we'll go from there.
Because that might be a recommendation this body makes to the city council as a condition that right-of-way be given and cost to remove and relocate utilities provided. So that might be something that we would look into making that recommendation.
We're not going to pay for relocating those utilities. We can't do that. We can donate right of way, but we can't pay for, those are high power Georgia power lines that,
I'm not saying that to relocate them at the time of development. I'm saying at the time of road improvement, the area in front of your right of way that you donate to the city, relocate at that point. That is a common occurrence and a common condition.
For the utilities to be relocated, yes.
Yes, sir.
For the developer to pay for them, no.
Yes, sir. That is a common condition placed on development.
I've been doing this for a bunch of, those are $100,000 poles, and then some. So we would donate right away.
Yes, sir.
We cannot relocate those poles. If it was a standard power line, running down the side of the road, that's fine. But that's a high power line that's serving a substation on the other side of I-20. So that's not a pole that we could that we can relocate on this particular development. If we're doing everything from here to up to the adjacent properties, and yes, but for this particular development, that's not a cost that we can.
It's not a cost share. You share the cost of doing it.
More than happy to give right away, but relocating utilities is not something that we can commit to at this time.
Okay. Are there any other questions of the applicant?
I have one. So I see that there's a fair amount of property at the rear of the development.
Correct.
Some of it's in floodplain, detention pond, stuff like that. That's a lot of what looks to be unusable property. You said as development goes forward, you plan to comply. So is there additional development that's planned for this piece of property other than what's listed on here?
No, we really, because of the constraints, there's a creek back there. Excuse me, there's the property line, there's really not a whole lot that we can do with that property. We've put the detention pond back there. If you look at the upper right-hand corner, there's a creek that runs through here, and you can see the
Yep.
buffers that are, so
Yeah.
we're kind of bumping up against that, and that really kind of dictates, you know, we're not gonna bubble out the building. So at the end of the day, we're going to just set that aside, put our detention pond back there, and leave it as floodplain going forward.
It'll remain green space.
Correct.
Thank you.
Do you have option on what's identified as track 1 and 2?
We've talked to those owners, but we have no plans for those at this time. Excuse me.
If there's no other questions, the applicant, you have 6 minutes and 15 seconds remaining for rebuttal should you need it. Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of this request? Please come to the podium and state your name. Is there anybody like to speak in opposition to this request? Hearing none, Mr. Chair, would you like to talk for another 6 minutes and 15 seconds?
No, I thank you. I think Barbara stole my thunder, so I'm going to, I know you guys, as community board members, your time commitment is more valuable than me rambling on.
Thank you. At this time, we'll close the public hearing. Members of the Planning Commission, future land use map designates this property as industrial. The adjacent zonings to the east and west of this property are light industrial. The zoning request seems to be consistent, is consistent with those two items. If there's any questions, concerns, let's discuss them. If not, we'll entertain a motion.
So since they're unwilling to cost share in moving utilities, he gets saddled with that cost.
Well, typically,
Because it's gonna happen.
that's a project cost that will get incurred by the jurisdiction performing the improvement. So,
So us again.
yes, the taxpayer ultimately gets stuck with that expense of relocating utilities as part of the road project. You know, and doing this, I know oftentimes state dollars are provided, but again, state dollars are our dollars. So it's not free money. There's no such thing.
Right.
So ultimately, yes, utility costs are bared by the
So. Yeah. I have a problem with that. It stands to reason. So I'm uninclined to, you know, based on the packages we're already giving to industry.
Yeah, that makes it hard for us to digest as citizens that we're paying for impacts that are being made in our community. Yeah, the donation of additional property, and I'm for right of way. Looking at the right of way here, this shows railroad right of way of 200 feet. How much further on the Apple's property are we going to have to take in order to widen the East Side Tower Trail in order to accommodate the truck traffic that it's going to generate with the amount of industrial development we're seeing.
Well, I mean, Hightower Trail's gonna end up being a 6-lane highway,
Um,
or at the very least 5 lanes.
I do believe it'll be a 4-lane, but the center turn lane is what I anticipate, much like the bypass.
And again, there's no way to go to the north.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like it's an absolute condition that this has to happen.
Yeah. Any adults? Concerns, adults?
Yeah, it's official. From my standpoint, it's official.
Yeah.
Or somebody will hit like blue.
Yeah, and with the zoning fits, it's just, how do we lessen the impact to our friends, neighbors, family, and citizens? How do we recommend lessen that impact? It's ultimately up to the city council. We could recommend approval with a laundry list of conditions. City council could take those conditions and put them in their pocket.
Okay.
That's the way you do it.
I like the line of it can be ruled now, but it can't be added to.
That's right, because once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
We can't get it back.
No? Anyone like to make a motion?
So, I'm going to motion that we approve with conditions, that there be sufficient property donated back to sufficiently improve East Hightower Trail for the future traffic burden. And I will also make the condition that at least that a portion of the cost of moving utilities be included.
Can you repeat that again, please?
I'll make a motion to approve with condition that we as the city, will be donated back sufficient amount of road footage to improve East Hightower Trail as needed for future traffic burden, and also to include a portion of cost share for utility movement.
All right, so just to clarify, motion to approve the rezoning as requested to light industrial with 2 conditions. Condition 1, that sufficient property donated for right-of-way to adequately handle the additional traffic.
And that may or may not need to be based on traffic
I mean, that's
study, not just for them, but for that whole road.
right. I think that's something imperative that the city will have to do, is look at the entire corridor to determine what it needs to be widened to. I do believe other surveys I've seen has 60-foot road right away. You need at least 100-foot road right away for 4-lane. So
And I'm not sure that East Hightower doesn't already encroach on the CSX right away.
I think it does. I think part of that is within the CSX right away. But back to the motion, to approve the sufficient property given for right away, and second condition is share in the portion of the cost to relocate utilities. And I'm going to ask for clarification when the road project
When the road project
occurs.
not before the road project occurs.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a unanimous second. All those in favor of the motion to approve with those 2 conditions, please raise your hand. Motion passed unanimously. So the third item on the agenda is a sketch plan review for Westland Park off Alcova Drive. Barbara, if you'd like to introduce this for us, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir. I do want to go back with a little bit of background on this one. Last year, we had this project come before us for a rezone on 100 acres on Alcova, and 30 homes, 30 lots, because it has 1 entrance. The sketch plan was approved last year. The applicant had so many days to come back with a preliminary. In the meantime, the 8 acres that was in between this 100 acres and the Laurel Oaks, they have acquired that 8 acres. So, that being said, the property did not allow for that second entrance, so the applicant was trying to make sure that he could get all the, 30 homes on there. So he came back with a different sketch. It is changed a little bit. So because he didn't meet the deadline, it does have to go back through the process all over again. So this is his sketch plan. He had a lot of conditions that we had put on there, and in your staff report, I left those in. There's like 11. And I just kind of recapped all the conditions that they were approved last year. The covenants, there will be a homeowners association due to the maintenance of the open space and the detention ponds, and that is on the plan. The description of it is included. The applicant will provide the city a water line easement on the property. And that easement, I know it's hard to see, and I'm not sure I can make this any bigger, but now it was going up through the middle of his property to get over there because he didn't own that. Now the water line easement will go right here and go across. And we have also required that he go across the creek and make the jack and bore under that creek and put a valve right here so that future tie-in to the water. Now on the second page, it shows the big lot, and this is the 60, now it's 60-something acres. So when this easement goes across here, it'll go all the way, the length of this property will be a 20-foot easement for water, future water line. There will be a 40-foot temporary construction easement, and then there's a 20-foot buffer that goes on this property. But right now, this is a single lot. And like I said, the other ones have the 30 lots from here. And then here's the detention pond. It's moved to the front. The back does have the creeks. Let's see, the sketch plan indicates a proposed stormwater management facility, and that's your detention pond. Stormwater management facility design, outlet structure details, and the storm routing per the City of Silver Circle and the Georgia EPD standards would be included in more detail on the preliminary plan. And we'll have the preliminary plan next, after we go through this process of going before the Planning Commission. Then it will go for the mayor and council. And then when he has 30 days, he will present the preliminary plan for this one. So the staff is recommending that the Planning Commission consider approving this sketch plan review with the original conditions listed in the rezone approval.
Thank you, Barbara. For clarification, on the sketch plan, what all staff reviews the sketch plan? Does it go to the fire marshal?
It goes to the fire marshal, it goes to our engineer, our precision planning. Jimmy Parker is the one that has, Jimmy and Joe at Precision Planning both have reviewed this. The road width, they've made a few comments. I think the fire department's good. Precision Planning's good. They have met on the preliminary plan. They were meeting all the requirements in the first one, and then like I said, this one changed a little bit, and it put all the detention pond at the front, and then the water line did not have to go through the middle of this 60-something acres back here. It can go in the easement.
Perfect.
It's pretty much, and they made the lots 100 feet
100 foot wide.
wide.
Yeah, that's the minimum lot width, I see.
So they made that happen.
Okay.
And like I said, I just want to show, this is a couple of samples of the homes that they would build on these 30 lots. So they are very nicely constructed. Looks nice.
Are there any questions of Barbara at this time? If not, Mr. Butler?
My name is Ned Butler, representing Reliant Homes. As stated, the major change we made was making the lots from 150 foot wide to 100 foot wide. That allowed us to shorten the road that we're going to install. It also allowed us to drain all the stormwater to the front and only one retention pond, rather than doing a second storm facility in the back. And then we needed to show that water line easement going into that strip of property between proposed subdivision and Laurel Oaks. So I'll try to be quick. I'll reserve it for any questions or opposite rebuttal.
Are there any questions of the applicant, Mr. Butler?
I think, just really quick,
Mhm.
forgive me, we've seen a lot of site plans this year, I feel like. Was there an area like for a clubhouse and a common area in this particular subdivision?
Not with 30 homes, because the homeowners' dues would be so high to support that, it wouldn't make sense.
Okay. Okay.
We typically, it's got to be 75 to 100 lots to make it work, to where you're not paying $2,000 to $3,000 a year in HOA dues to fund that pool.
Okay. Well, yeah, pool optional, I didn't know if there's a clubhouse or a common green space playground, no amenities.
No amenities.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Looking at this, it meets the requirements of the sketch plan. The next step is the preliminary. The detention area is up front, but it's hidden, it will be hidden behind the state water buffer, 25 foot, it's vegetated. So from Alcova, you might see bits and pieces of it as you drive during the winter. These are all the trees, but that's for the sketch plan. I guess we do need it open up to the public hearing. Anyone here like to speak in favor of this request? Anyone here like to speak in opposition? Is there anybody here? At this time, we'll close the public hearing. Is there anything to discuss? If not, shall I entertain a motion?
A motion to approve the sketch plan as provided.
Have a motion to approve as provided. A second.
Second.
Have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. Deb, we'll see you next month. See you in a month. Ms. Barber, do we have any old business not listed on the agenda?
No, sir, I do not. And, oh, well, I will say, I was told, Susan went to a class recently, and we don't say old business anymore, we say unfinished business. So you will see that little bit of difference on your agendas going forward.
Are we getting woke?
That was for you, that was just for you.
Yeah. So,
Mike.
yep.
Mike, does it make you feel bad when you call it old business?
I am old business. It don't bother me at all.
Look, if there's no unfinished business and there's no new business, the chair calls this meeting adjourned.